Hello there. Welcome back to Tales from Tosche Station. Well, guys, I think they did it. I think they stuck the landing on it. Uh, pretty good, pretty good episode. Like, I'm gonna say probably my favorite episode of the entire season. So, they did a lot of cool things, teased one specific character, and teased things out for potential season 2. Do they deserve it? I don't know. Let's talk about it. So, without any further ado, hey Chewie, do me a favor. Punch this thing. Let's get into it. All right, let's open this thing up. So we open on breathing. It's the first thing we hear. We see the Lucasfilm logo, and then we hear OSHA's breathing in the background. And then it picks up the exact moment at the end of episode 6. And we see OSHA's body begin to contort. And the stranger's eyes, Chimer's eyes, go black as she has now entered his mind, and he's essentially trying to fight her off as he gets the helmet off of her. And we see the slightest twinkle of red in her eyes as the Cortos's helmet comes off, and she tells Chimera that she saw a vision of the future, that she saw May trying, well, not trying, but killing Soul without a weapon, which is significant because she did actually see she actually did see the future there. And then we cut to the ship where we see Soul is defending his choices to May, essentially that they made the right choice in intervening, that they had the right to, as he tells May that her and OSHA aren't sisters, they're not even twins, as he's about to say exactly what they are, as May tasers him with Pip. And then he gives chase through the rings of Brindok's moon, and we get probably one of the better set pieces of this entire series. I mean, it was breathtaking. Forcing Soul to dive into the rings as, and this doesn't, I don't understand what happened here. Basil, whatever the gopher beaver thing's name is, sabotages the ship when he's about to tractor beam May in. Again, I still don't understand. That's the one part of the episode that just threw me for a loop. Why did Basil do that? Is he a secret Sith Lord? Is he working with the Jedi? I don't know. But he sabotages the ship. They all crash on Brindok, and then we cut to Coruscant as Vernestra is going into the meeting from going into a meeting with the senator from a couple episodes ago, and this dude's got a vendetta against the Jedi. He believes the Jedi have unchecked power, that they project an image of goodness and restraint, and he essentially predicts that one of them is going to go off the rails at some point, and what's going to happen when that one person does, who's going to answer for it, who's going to stop him. As she then gets a distress call, basically saying that they're on Bryndock, and she hightails it out of there. We then go back to the unknown planet, which O'Shea and the stranger are heading to Bryndock, and as they leave, we get probably the most important thing that happens in this entire one of the most important things that happens in this entire episode. We see a hand peering out, and then the camera reverses to reveal Darth Plagueis. And when I saw this, I started freaking out because he is now in canon. Yes, his age is going to be a little weird, but I am totally okay with that. So, I mean, he has no set age in canon, just kind of like Mundy. So they can make him however old that they need him to be. He could be as old as Yoda. He could literally have that same lifespan where he could be like 900 years old. Or at this point, Yoda's like 600 years old, whatever. And if they do make a season 2, I'm really interested to see what happens with all of that. As we then see the stranger and Osha make it to the mining elevator, as the stranger as Chimera just kind of disappears, as Osha is left to power on a mining elevator that got destroyed in a fire that, technically speaking, shouldn't even work because everything's burned out on it. I'm putting too much logic into it. I know that, but still, that makes sense. And then we see Soul at the catwalk that he allowed May and Osha to fall at, and he's looking for May after they crashed, and he's trying to figure out where she is as he turns around and walks away, as we see May coming up out of the catwalk. And as he continues throughout the fortress, the stranger confronts him, and we are shown probably the best duel that Disney Star Wars has given us to date. It was probably the best choreography I think I've seen since Revenge of the Sith. The wire fu was amazing. The force repulse that Soul does was chef's kiss, and just how we see a change in Chimera's fighting style. He's not just dispatching, being a brutal psychopath, taking out 7 Jedi at once because he knows he can beat them. No, he's got to focus. He's got to use every bit of his ability to defeat Soul. And while that's going on, we're also treated to a pretty good hand-to-hand combat fight between May and Osha. This one's done really well with Amandla Stenberg's stunt doubles really putting in the work. And something I noticed is that because they're the same person, May and Osha are fighting the exact same way, approaching this fight the exact same way, because they're the exact same person. That if you notice the moves, the blocks, the kicks, everything they're doing, it's the same move because they're the same person. Approaching this fight the same way, and we get a really cool match cut between the kicks of Osha and May to a saber clash between Soul and the Stranger. And it's just that whole sequence between all four of them was just, it was really, 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 really good. I mean, the hand-to-hand combat was, I love saber combat, but I'm also a big fan of hand-to-hand combat in in any kind of live action. So seeing that and just knowing how much work Amandla put into hand-to-hand combat was just, it was just really good. I really loved that sequence. And then we see Vernestra and her Jedi team showing up, and we get the final part of the duel between Soul and Chimera as they run each other through, as Chimera's saber is broken in half, as Soul essentially has him at knife point at this point in time. And then May comes out of nowhere, attacks Soul, separates him from his lightsaber, and tosses it like across the courtyard. As we focus on, we get a camera shot of inside the lightsaber as we focus on his kyber crystal. He then goes on to explain to her that May and Osha, he goes on to explain to May everything. That they're the same person divided into two bodies. Soul admits to killing their mother as Osha walks out, overhears this, grabs his saber, as he tells her he's about to say he loves her when Osha just stops him from talking. As she's doing this, she's letting her emotions overflow her, feeding into the kyber crystal, and we see that in real time. We see the crystal bleeding in real time as she snaps Soul's neck, killing him without a weapon, doing exactly what Chimera wanted May to do. May's not the Acolyte. Osha is. As Chimera goes to touch Osha's shoulder, Osha brings up the lightsaber, and this is probably one of the coolest effects I've seen in Star Wars in a very long time. She extends the saber, and we see the blade bleeding out as it extends. And there's a little puff of steam at the very end of the saber. And it was really cool to me to see the bleeding of a lightsaber in live action. We've only seen that in comics and in the Fallen Order video game. For those that do not know, bleeding a kyber crystal is how the Sith create their sabers. That's one of the parts of new Disney canon that I absolutely love. That makes a lot of sense. That in Legends, the Sith were essentially synthetically creating these crystals. But the way that they've explained it in new canon is the Sith, or the person, or the dark side user, however you want to say that, is essentially pouring their emotions into the crystal, and that's what causes it to bleed. All their rage, all their anger, everything. I actually might do a discussion and breakdown on that next week. Actually, probably going to do that in a video next week. And just gave me a really good idea. So that's probably going to be next week, but I'll talk about that here in a minute. So May and Osha leave, and May shows Osha the tunnel that she landed in and snaked out, as Vernestra senses Chimera. She comes off the ship. She comes to the compound and starts to figure out the crime scene, figure out what's going on, as she sees Soul and May and Osha go to the Bunta tree as they meet, as Chimera meets them, and Osha agrees to go with him, but she needs to wipe May's memory. May's memory gets wiped. They leave. May's arrested, taken in by Vernestra, as May now only remembers the fire and what happened the night of, and she knows that she has a sister, but it's very fuzzy. As Vernestra goes to a Senate hearing and blames the entire thing on Soul. She doesn't mention the vergence of Brendock. She doesn't mention what happened with the Sith, what happened originally on Brendock. None of that. Just that Soul went rogue, killed all these Jedi, and that's the cover up. Soul's the fall guy, which I kind of figured was going to happen. He was going to be the fall guy this entire time. And then we see Osha and Chimera standing on the beaches of Baldimnik. I'm assuming that's what this unknown planet is, because that's the only reason that Plagueis would be there. That's essentially the first chapter of the Plagueis novel. Is Baldimnik? That's where he kills Tenebris. So they're probably on Baldimnik. But anyways, we see that, and then the episode ends, and then we get this very MCU-ish cameo of Yoda. We see his ear. We see Vernestra coming into the High Council chambers. We see his ears cut to black, and that's the show. Again, I really liked this episode. It was really good. The things they did, but the way that we got here was not satisfactory in my mind. The character motivations, the pacing, the writing, it just, everything was so all over the place, where that, yeah, it was a good finale, but the path to which we got here on this roller coaster just didn't, to me, it didn't. It shouldn't have. It should have been more cohesive, and I hope we get that in a season 2 if we get it. I mean, this show's been review bombed from the jump. Even people like the show episodes were getting review bombed before they even came out. So there's a lot of things that there are a lot of things that I have issues with. This honestly is my least favorite Star Wars show, like live action show we've gotten. Just purely from a writing standpoint and a character motivation standpoint, it was very up and down, and just performance wise, I will say Amanda Stenberg's performance leaves a lot to be desired, and that's honestly a little sad, because she did as well as she could, but anytime she was on screen with herself, it felt really flat. And I'm not taking anything away from her. She did the best that she could with what she was given, just like Anakin, just like Hayden did back in the day with the prequel stuff. I'm hoping in a season 2 that we get a viewpoint of this. Like season 2, I want it to be all Sith. Chimera, Osha, Plagueis, Tenebris. That's what I want. Give us what you guys promised us. A show about the bad guys from the bad guys' perspective. And there's a way that they can make this make sense. Plagueis is all about trying to figure out how to create life from the Force. And this girl that Chimera has, that's her. She was created with the Force, not by the Force, but with the Force. She's the secret to what he's trying to figure out. And I think it would be really interesting to see in a potential season 2 of Plagueis planting the seeds to break those two up, and then figure out the secret figure out whatever May is, and then once he's got that secret, kills them off, kills them both off, and then goes to find another apprentice. That apprentice being Palpatine. Like I said, I really want a season 2. Clean up the writing, let it be more cohesive, and got a good show. Overall, I'll give this show a 7 out of 10, 6 out of 10. Just because there were just there were great moments in the show. There were good moments in the show, but there were mostly just okay and bad moments of the show. There was a lot of potential on the table here, and they really miffed it. They really messed it up. So I'm optimistic for a season 2. I want it. I know me and a lot of my other creators and friends want it. So I mean, let's see what happens. But yeah, that's my thoughts. It's satisfying to a point, but could have been a lot better. But yeah, I've got a few things cooking, so be on the lookout for next week. Till next time, guys, the Force be with you.